All right, welcome to the CEO podcast. Today I have Chloe McIntosh of Boxwood Avenue here with us today. Please introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what you do, and where you're from.
Awesome. Hi, I am so excited to be here. My name is Chloe, of course. I own Boxwood Avenue, which started as really just a lifestyle blog. Actually, it started as an Etsy shop and has turned into a multifaceted business. So we have an interior design firm. We serve clients across the globe. I also have an e-commerce shop, which was formerly a brick and mortar. So I think we'll probably get into that, talking about shop ownership and e-commerce. And then also we still maintain the blog and sort of like the influencer space as well. Within the blog, we also host retreats for creatives overseas in Europe. So lots of
Amazing.
different things. Yes.
Yeah, I think I started following you a few years ago because you have a farm, right?
Yes, so now I'm kind of in like a transition period. So I'm splitting my time between Reno Tahoe area and Nashville, living on a farm, and then also Europe. So I'm kind of in like three different spots all at
Okay.
once.
Because I think
Yes.
that was what initially attracted me to you. Like I love the style and the whole aesthetic of your brand, but one of my dreams is to have a farm. So I'm like, oh, this girl's doing it. What's she doing? So that was kind of the initial
Farm
connection.
life is great. Farm life is great. Yes, I definitely love the slow living aspect of farm life. I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah. And did you get into that? Like, did you grow up on a farm? How did that come about?
No, so I was in college and my boyfriend at the time was like, hey, I'm going to move to my family's cattle ranch. Like off I go. And I was like, okay, like he'll last, not that long. And he ended up really loving it. And then we ended up getting married. And so I moved up there and I lived there for 10 years. And it was really fun. It was a great experience. And I had not grown up on a cattle ranch. And so it was a really interesting experience because that's kind of how I started the blog. I went from like more of a city girl to a farm girl overnight. And so I would share these hilarious experiences of being a city girl and like learning how to break water for the cattle and stuff like that. Like I had no idea what I was doing. And so that's really how Boxwood Avenue was born. But in a sense, I was living in the city and I think anybody can relate. There's sort of that keeping up with the Joneses mentality that can happen in life. And so when I moved up to this cattle ranch, I was like plucked from everything that I knew and put into a town of 99 with like nothing. And so it really disoriented me, but in a great way. I really found meaning in life and really the luxury of simplicity and living a more meaningful life. And that is really what sparked Boxwood Avenue. Just that feeling of creating something with your hands and the goodness that comes with all of that, whether it's like out in the garden or even I sewed a lot or cooking from scratch. I really wanted to share that with people. And that's how Boxwood Avenue was born.
Amazing. I love that. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk about that a little bit in terms of the design side of things, because I think so much of design, obviously, like construction's pretty wasteful. Everything is,
Yeah.
we have to purchase large amounts of furniture and ship them, and the amount of
hmm
packaging that things come in. So, talk to me a little bit about how you try to manage that with the slow living, and like how do you find peace between those two things?
It's so funny because when I had the brick and mortar and we get all of the packaging, I'd be like, girls, we have to save this bubble wrap. And the girls are like, we have no place to put this bubble wrap, but it would kill me to be like throwing away the packaging. So yes, I mean, that's a problem within our industry, I think. But the way that we mitigate that, and it really just happened organically. I don't think that there was so much intention behind it, but it is something that I'm really proud of is we source primarily antiques. So I go overseas, we source antiques and we bring them back. So that's one way we are really reduce, reuse, recycle kind of mentality. We also really, really try and work with artisans. And so anything that can be handmade, handcrafted, of course, there's still that waste, but I think that supporting artisans is really, really helpful. It's supporting somebody's dream, but it's also kind of going back to the roots of how things are made. And I think really with Boxwood Avenue, like our tagline is you don't need more, you need meaningful. And so with every piece of furniture that we source, whether it's antiques or if it's something that we're having made, We approach it in that way. And so any fabrics that we source, we're always trying to go as direct to the artisan as possible. Any piece of furniture, I mean, I'd say that we're probably, I don't know if I had to do percentages, like 50% antiques, 30% artisans or handcrafted. And then of course there's that 20% where we're all having to buy some accessories that come from those big box stores, but we try and minimize that as much as possible.
I love that. I think that's so important. And I have a course for interior designers coming out of school. And one of the things we talk about, obviously, is meeting that expectation of your ideal client. And for you,
Mm-hmm.
like that tagline you just said, just hit home so hard. Like
I
you
love
don't
that.
you don't need more, you need meaningful. And it's so true.
Yes.
And the longer I live, the longer, as I get older, I realize that it's the things that I have sourced that I found at an antique shop that have been handed down in my
100%.
family. Those are the things I love. And like anytime I clean out the house, which I do a lot because I'm a bit of an A type, but like I'll clean out and I get rid of like a lot of, anything that's from Home Sense or like that kind of thing, like that just comes in and out. And everything
Yes.
that's like this little piece up here, for those of you listening, we're on video, but like this little art piece I found, it's a map of the area of England that my family's from. And I found it in this like 200-year-old falling down antique shop, like buried in the
Yes.
back. And I'm like, I love it. It's my favorite thing. So I think when we're working with clients, bringing that meaningful,
Mm-hmm.
deep rooted kind of connection with pieces is so important to get them to really like not even buy into the design, but really like feel what we're feeling when we're creating it.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't have put it any better than you just did, but it's so true. If I think about being like, I am kind of in this transition period of where I really want to put roots down next. And so I'm not kidding. When I moved to Nashville to the farm, I brought with me some clothes, of course. But what else I brought with me were just the quote unquote necessities. And it was literally a carry-on full of antiques. So I had like my like vintage paintings and some ceramics that I picked up in France. And those were the things that I brought with me to make it feel like home as I moved. And it's just so true, those pieces that are so special. And I think that we can give that to clients. And so for us, like a lot of the time we are sourcing or we are antiquing with clients or we're bringing clients with us. And so I think that rather than sourcing from these big box stores as much as we can to take the additional time to really cultivate relationships with artisans and antiques.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the artisan side, like for me, sustainability is a big one for our
Mm-hmm.
company. And working with local people, it reduces not only like the impact of waste in shipping materials, but also
Mm-hmm.
just the ability to foster economic support within your own community.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And even just, I don't know if you're woo woo at all, but like for me, it's the
Oh, girl. It's the energy. Yes. Okay,
the
keep
energy
going.
that goes into that piece, right? Like, and
100%.
yeah, like all the things that we create or that are created by people, like their energy is put into that product as they make
Yes.
it. So,
Yes.
yeah, so the vibe of the piece
Mm-hmm.
itself, like everything's like got an energetic signature, and like the energetic signature of these pieces is created by those people creating them. So, like, it just changes the whole vibe of the space when you have like the right parts
Exactly.
coming into play.
Exactly. Okay, I want to add to that because as you were talking, I was thinking, like, even before you mentioned the energy element of that, when I moved up to this cattle ranch, right, I was like, it was very eye-opening because I learned so much about agriculture and food. So one, trying to grow your own garden. I don't know if anybody listening has ever tried to grow their own food. Like one single tomato, I swear we're like, oh my gosh, we won't go hungry. But on a grand scale of things, the fact that grocery stores are stocked is incredible because food is very hard to grow. And when I moved up to this ranch, I was like, holy smokes, there is one person that has dedicated their entire life to growing tomatoes or to growing lemons or to raising this animal. And the energy that goes into that, that then we can consume and then put that energy and into the best of our ability, like good vibes out into the world doing what we're doing. So it's like this chain of events. But to add to that, like I brought those plates from France. I brought them in a carry-on from France because they were handmade by this amazing woman that I met in Provence. Brought them back to the States. I love those plates, right? So when I brought them back to Tennessee in my carry-on, this is like the sisterhood of the traveling plates. But I was like, I know that my life will be better eating food out of this bowl, out of these, off of these plates, because there is such good energy from these plates rather than like going to Target and buying plates. Like hands down, there is a difference. And I think that we can provide that to our clients and we can educate them and help them live. And that's really what our intention is for our clients, specifically with Boxwood, is to help our clients because they're typically very busy professionals wanting to slow down. And so we're showing them like, oh, if you get these specific plates or cups or whatever art, piece of artwork, it's really going to help you, even though you may think it's just visual. It's not just visual. There's so much more to everything that we do as designers.
Yes, absolutely. It's like when people say like food tastes better when it's made with love. It's like the
Yes.
same type of,
yes, homes feel better when they're crafted with intention.
Exactly. So tell me a little bit about your path to becoming a designer. Like, did you go to school for it? Is that kind of because you said it started with a blog. So is there kind of a non-traditional path there?
Yes. Okay. And the woo-woo element, like I saw your sweatshirt says it's like I'm busy manifesting or something. Yes. Okay. So I'm big on manifesting, but and just like listening to signs. So The Alchemist is my like the book is like my guiding light, listening to the universe, right? So I moved up to this cattle ranch. I really wanted a TV show. Now you couldn't probably pay me to have a TV show. I mean, never say never, but I really wanted a TV show for some reason. And I started following these like accounts on Instagram. I started growing my Instagram account of these producers that I knew they produced different shows, different popular TV shows. And eventually one day they approached me and they're like, hey, we, found your Instagram account. And I'm like, how funny you found my Instagram account. It's like that Taylor Swift song, like I'm the mastermind or whatever.
Yeah.
So they came to me to do like a cooking TV show, like to pitch it to a network. And as we were doing the interview process, it was on video and they were like, oh, they saw some renovations in my house kind of in the background. And they were like, what's going on behind you? And I said, oh, we're remodeling my house. And they're like, oh, tell us more about that. I said, oh, my dad and I do projects together. He's, helps build houses and et cetera. And they're like, oh, tell us more about that, like father-daughter duo. And I was like, oh yeah, my dad and I, we work together all the time. And so the pitch sort of transitioned into like father-daughter duo, does home renovations, daughter lives on the farm, dad lives in the city, and they do house projects together. And so I was not an interior designer at the time. I had only literally done my house, like, and it wasn't even done because it was in the background, like under construction. And they were like, okay, cool. Like you're going to do a casting call for clients. And I was like, I didn't have any clients at the time. So we do a casting call for clients and I get 3 people apply. 1 goes for the show and then 2 don't get picked for the show, but they reach out and they're like, hey, will you still do our house? And I was like, sure. So, I mean, this was a fake it till you make it situation. I did not know. I mean, I knew what I was doing to a sense. I had good taste, what I thought was good taste. And I was learning all I could as we shot this pilot episode in the background, right? Which thank God there was like a full construction crew and what's called a showrunner, so like kind of a project manager. So throughout that process, the show, nothing happened with it. It didn't get picked up, but I got my first clients. And through that, I learned that I really liked client work. And I had a girlfriend tell me, she was like, I really see design in your future. You're really good at this. I think you should do something with it. And I was like, really? Like, you think I'm good at that? So I just started to pursue it. I found I really liked client work and one client turned into another. And the most random places to get clients. Like I posted a video on Facebook of all places and I just titled it Modern Farmhouse in the location that I was at. And somebody found it and that's still our biggest project to date. So you just never know where you're going to get clients from and how that's going to come to be. But it was definitely not a traditional route, shall we say.
I love it. It's actually really similar to mine, weirdly enough. I was working in commercial roofing and then I got a job offer on HGTV as a design assistant for one of the Property Brothers like spin-off shows. It only had 1 season. And so I jumped into that. And then my dad's a contractor as well. So then I just started working with him and like started my business while I worked alongside him helping with the construction firm. And then it just slowly grew from there. So kind of a similar path.
Yeah, I love that. Yes.
I think school can take you, I think design school is fantastic. I didn't go back because at that point I already had my bachelor's degree. I was like 27. I was like, I don't have time to go back to school. I don't want to go back to school. So I did like a diploma in design just to learn like the very basics. But even that, it's like you learn everything on the job, like working with clients, making mistakes, doing the things and then
Yes.
fixing them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, similarly, I went and I got like a, certificate or whatever.
Yeah.
But, and, I did learn how to measure in that class and things that I still use to this day, or how to like sketch out a floor plan and that type of thing.
Yeah. You definitely learn some things, but it's I wouldn't say it's the be all end all. That's why I developed my course, because I was like, there's so much you don't learn in school. Even the people, like I've had interns in that have been to school for 4 years at university for design. And the biggest thing I always say is they come in and like I'll be like, okay, so this is the client's budget. And they're like, what do you mean a budget? I'm like, it's like, what do you mean? What do I mean? So that's always a fun teaching moment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, teaching them that we have to work within a budget. It's always hard.
I'm still learning that one. I'm like, oh, maybe I need to take that.
Right? I know. It's tough. It's a tough one. So what would you say is the biggest challenge you've ever encountered as a designer, and how did you overcome it?
Gosh. I mean, there's different elements. I would say one is the competency. Competence increases confidence. And so I think a lot of designers, as they're getting started, I hear there's like, maybe there's fear of failure, or there's comparison, or there's, imposter syndrome, I think is called. So I struggled with that at the beginning, right? Because I didn't have that traditional route, and I was learning so much and making mistakes, of course, and learning how to work with clients. And so I think that the biggest mistake when I was getting started was, well, it wasn't even a mistake. It's just that competency increases confidence. And so I think that was hard, because it takes time to gain the competence to increase your confidence. So I think any designer starting out, I would say just accept that maybe there will be some of that at the beginning. There's a little bit of quote unquote imposter syndrome, because you're just learning. And but to not let that waver your drive or your ambition, and to keep going and to keep learning and to keep practicing, and know that even the best designers are still making mistakes, and are still, the rug is still showing up the wrong size or something like that. It still happens to everybody. And of course, you want to mitigate those mistakes as much as possible, but it's never going to be perfect. And to give yourself a little bit of slack there. And then I think, at the beginning, I remember the first project I had, I think I quoted them $6,000 for an entire house, and I only ended up billing them $3,000 because I was like too afraid to send over the invoice at the end. And I wish that I would have started off just understood the business side of things a little bit more, and really been firm in my markups and been firm in my hourly rate. I've gone back and forth so much on, do we do a flat rate? Do we do hourly? Blah, blah, blah. And I know that there are so many different opinions, and what works for me might not work for somebody else. But for us, hourly works really well. A set markup works really well. But it took me 6 years to get to that point where now I'm like, okay, and this is creating a profitable business. So I'd say that that's a mistake. And then I also think at the beginning, trying to do it all myself, really, if you are billing hourly, this is just kind of going to the business side of things. If you're billing hourly, to start to outsource as quickly as you can those technical drawings, if that's not your strong suit, and sort of project management and procurement. I think that those things are great to outsource. They're easy to train, and then you can focus on doing the design work and client interaction and client relationships. Because if you're billing hourly, you will then be making money off of each of those hours, and then you can invest that money back into the business. And so I didn't know that at the beginning.
That's all wonderful advice. And I wouldn't even call those mistakes. I think that's just being an entrepreneur and learning, as things are coming, right? But very, very good advice, especially, outsourcing immediate, like as soon as you can is always ideal. And finding what you like to do. Like you said, if you like the drawings, or if you like, whatever it is, finding the things you don't necessarily like or are not as good at, and finding someone who can help with those things is one of the best ways to quickly increase your productivity and your outputs, right?
And then, I mean, of course, I've made like really dumb mistakes too. Like, I mean, ordering the wrong refrigerator, stuff like that. But those are the lessons that, like, I call them needle in the haystack moments of, you think that you have gone through every little detail of a project, and it's the one thing that you overlooked that you wouldn't ever be able to even look back and prevent, but you'll never make that mistake again. I will never order the wrong refrigerator again. I'll tell you that much.
You know what? And that's, I say every time we do a project, our process changes a little bit because
Hmm.
of those things, right? There was one project where I didn't double check. I had an intern doing the drawings and I didn't double check her kitchen drawings, and there was a filler missing and the fridge didn't open. So
Yeah.
like,
Oh yeah. Hmm.
I was like, okay, never not checking those again, right? Like
Right.
it gets to the point where you just start to like implement into your process,
Yeah.
um, all the mistakes you make you better in the end.
Totally. Totally.
So you told me before we came on, before we started recording, you told me that you're kind of splitting your time now between Nashville, Utah, did you say?
Tahoe, Reno,
Tahoe.
Tahoe. Uh-huh.
Okay. And Europe. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit about what that looks like. How does that work in terms of running your business? Just give us an overview of your life, please.
Yes. Okay. So, moving from the farm, and I mean, this is encouraging maybe to anybody who is going to move and is worried about that or wants to take clients on outside of their home territory or whatnot. So, we've always had clients throughout the states because I started with the blog, which is more of a global kind of anybody can access it, right? It's not just one location. Of course, Reno Tahoe area is where a lot of our clients are because that is where I got started and that's where I called home or close to where I called home. So we split I split my time though, and we have clients across the globe. Now we have a project in Spain. We've done a project in India. And so the way that we work that is we will start working with, which actually you didn't really ask about this, but I'll give you
Yeah, tell
just
me.
like an overall. We start with, we'll always have an architect on the project in that capacity. And so we receive their drawings and it's just kind of a virtual project. We'll fly out and do some site visits if the client wants. Not all the time. They don't always need that. A lot of the time we'll come out for like an install though. But we just use those drawings and then we form a relationship with the contractor. Our drawings are all used as design intent. So we have everybody like it for cabinetry, for example, to your point, those would always be cross-referenced by field measurements by the contractor in the cabinetry trade. But then we handle all of the design. We just send sample boxes. We review them together on Zoom. Sometimes we'll fly out. It just depends. And so that's been really fun. That has allowed me to really split my time. Now in Reno, Tahoe, I do have a local designer for site visits just because we do have so many projects out here. But I spend a lot of time in Reno, Tahoe with my family's here. And then I just recently relocated part-time at least to Nashville. I had some friends out that way. And I think that getting kind of Boxwood presence over on the East Coast sounds really exciting to me. But my heart is in Europe. And so I'd really like to get my European passport. So my dad has his, I can then be eligible for mine. And my dream is so we host these retreats over in Europe, but my dream is to start getting little Boxwood B&Bs throughout the European cities that we do our retreats in and have them designed by us, stocked with Boxwood Mercantile product, which is our e-commerce shop, and then have them be little vacation rentals for followers and blog readers to go experience kind of that luxury and simplicity lifestyle, but on vacation and in Europe. So we really started to get known for our presence in Europe. So I share a lot about travel, a lot about design and travel, and then we take designers and creative business owners overseas and we take them to meet with the artisans that we work with. And so it's fun. Like we'll go do a ceramics workshop or get to go shopping at like the gal that makes the plates I was talking about earlier, like get to go to her farmhouse in Provence. So that's kind of a brief overview of that. I don't know if I answered your question very succinctly. But
Yeah, no, you did. I think really a lot of people's question is so many people want to have that flexibility in lifestyle
mhm,
and that ability to kind of move around and spend, a month here, a few weeks there.
mhm,
So to know kind of how you do that is interesting for sure. You told me too that you used to have a brick and mortar store and now you do
yes.
more online sales. So how did that kind of come to be? And how did you find setting up the online space?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I mean, I could probably talk for so long about the brick and mortar, but I always felt in my heart like I wanted to own a shop, and I think that many designers, many people can relate to that. So I was just like, when I started Boxwood Avenue, I always I thought Boxwood looks really good on a storefront sign. Like that was honestly like one of the first thoughts I had, and so I always wanted a brick and mortar, and it was actually 2020. I had just completed like my first like first two projects really. And I was like, you know what? I want to open up a brick and mortar. And there was this new shopping complex that was being built in a really cute place in Reno. And I was like, let's do it. Let's just go for it. So we opened up the brick and mortar, and I wouldn't say it was unsuccessful, and I'm really happy that I did do it. But a lot of designers that I talked to kind of warned me against it. They were like, listen, it's hard, just so you know. And I was like, I can do it. Like, don't be so negative. And truly, anybody that's listening that really wants to open up a brick and mortar, I hope that I don't sound like, don't let me sway you, like follow your dreams. But it's interesting because when you open up a brick and mortar from a business perspective as a designer, as a designer, you get paid hourly, right? Or in some capacity, you get paid to source that sofa. The client then pays for the shipping and pays for the procurement or the ordering and the handling and then the delivery and install of that sofa. So the client is paying for all of that plus, let's call it a 20 or 30% markup or retail, depending on your business model. When you eliminate all of those things when you open up a brick and mortar and you add overhead. So you're now paying for somebody to sell the sofa. You're now paying to have the sofa sit in your shop. You're paying to move the sofa around, get it to your shop. And the client is not paying then for you to kind of handle the procurement or to really source or select the sofa, right? So now you've taken away a lot of the profit that a designer would typically get, and it's coming out of your pocket as a business, as a shop owner. So that was just hard because when we were looking at the numbers of profitability, we're like, this doesn't make sense. And the shop was stressful because what sold was all the creative co-op stuff. The artisan products, I mean, they would sell and the antiques would sell, but they're priced a lot higher. And so what would continually turn over was like, the creative co-op tea towels and little like ceramic spoons and stuff. And that was somewhat soul sucking for me to have to continuously source those smaller items that were becoming the kind of bread and butter of the shop. So I looked at it, and our lease was coming up. We had a 3-year opt out, so we could get out then. And I'm looking at things and I'm like, the shop wasn't what I really wanted it to be. It wasn't artisan focused. We're buying all of this junk. And it wasn't fulfilling for me. So Lori, who's my operations director, she's my right hand. She and I just looked at each other and we were like, you know what? I think we take the out. Let's take the out and we'll redirect into the retreats and into doing our Airbnbs because at the end of the day, the shop was costing us upwards of $15,000 to $20,000 a month to keep open. And I'm looking at that going, okay, if I'm spending that much to keep my doors open, why don't and I don't own this building, like I'm paying rent. Why don't I just turn these into our Airbnbs, which is really our Boxwood B&Bs, which is really what we wanted to do. So we let that go. We have e-commerce still. I wouldn't say it does much through Pinterest a little bit. People shop through Pinterest. But it's hard because a lot of what you're able to sell online, there's a lot of people who don't allow online sales, of course, because it's so saturated. So what you're able to sell online it's a saturated market. It's hard to find those unique products, which is really what I'm passionate about, kind of what we talked about earlier, sustainability. And if you're selling antiques, it's difficult because you go overseas or you find some antiques, you have to then photograph them, edit the photos, get the listing written, put it up, and then you have to ship it. And it just becomes like, I noticed that we really weren't making much money off of it.
Right.
So that's kind of where e-commerce stands right now. I mean, we still have it, but it's not our focus by any means.
And when you say some people don't allow online sales, do you mean different vendors that you source from
Yes.
for the products? Okay.
Yeah. So like Four Hands, for example, I mean, Four Hands does allow you to, if you hit a certain threshold, but like Visual Comfort, those companies where it's like a little bit easier to just continuously sell and order because they are great, like they're at a nice price point, they are more accessible. They don't allow online sales to everybody, right? You have to be approved, and it's a more difficult process.
Interesting. Okay. That's great information for anybody who's like, I'm going to, has those hopes and dreams and I just love having authentic experiences shared because I think that, I not that I'm wanting to dash anyone's dreams by any means, but I think it's nice to hear the real story behind things sometimes just to like understand that, not everyone, it's always harder than you think it's going to be.
Totally. And with online, I was like, how are they going to even know? Just put the stuff online. Who cares? Let's try it. Oh, they came down. They were like,
oh no,
excuse me, you're not on our approved vendor to sell online. And I was like, all right, girls, take it off the website. And so that said, what my dream is to kind of have a custom furniture line by Boxwood and really start slow, have like 4 or 5 products that I really believe in that are designed by Boxwood, and then grow from there. I do not have the mental capacity to get that off the ground right now. So eventually I think we will, but like shipping is a pain in the butt. Any designer knows this. And like I said, to take away all of the elements that kind of assist in making it a profitable exchange are stripped when you are selling online or have a brick and mortar.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me more about the Boxwood B&Bs, because I just love that idea. I think that would be so fun. Do you have any in process yet, or what's going on with that?
So yeah, it's interesting because last year I was like really wanting to do some like more like spec homes or even like flips, Boxwood style. And it just kind of didn't work out. And I was like, gosh, I don't know why like this isn't working out, but talk about, manifesting, like it just wasn't the right time. And so as Lori and I really reflected it, Europe is where my heart is. It's where I want to be. If I just listened to myself, I would be over there right now. But I go in September. Anyways, so we started to think about, because we host these retreats, and each time we host the retreat, and it's like $20,000-$30,000 or something to rent out the chateaus that we stay in. And I'm like, okay, to me, in my entrepreneurial mind, I'm thinking, why don't I just buy something and then it can be a Boxwood thing, then we can rent it out and da da da. Like I have to turn it into a business. I can't just like give somebody my money.
No.
So I started last time I was there in May, I started looking at chateaus, and I was thinking, if we were going to buy like a 20-bedroom chateau, like really cool Boxwood experience. And the more I thought about it, I thought, you know what? What's more realistic is to have smaller, accessible Airbnbs throughout Europe where we go or we travel to, and make them really cute and turn them into our little Boxwood B&Bs and grow that part of the business. So that this is kind of, we decided on that in June, July, and I go in September. There are a couple properties I want to go look at. I'm thinking, I can't decide where I want to be, if it's Italy, Provence, or even I'm considering Spain. So sort of putting my feelers out there. This is a new thing for us, and hopefully, like I write down in my journal, like, what do I need to do by the end of the year to have this feel like a successful year? And getting our first Airbnb or Boxwood B&B is right top of the list.
I love it. I'm so excited. I'm gonna go as soon as you
Yes.
have one.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it'll be fun to shoot for the blog. And so there's I'm really grateful because we have set up our business. I say we because Lori is really my right hand, but the way we've set it up is, the design supports the blog, which supports the retreats, which supports the design. So it's kind of this like holistic process.
Tell me more about that, because I think that's very interesting. And I think in today's world and marketplace, people are trying to, I don't want to say dilute their services, but diversify their offerings in order to have different streams of income that support different goals, different passions, different, like for me, for example, like I have the design and construction, which I really love, but I also have the course that just launched that I love teaching. And I really love like sharing knowledge and having like watching people have the aha moments. And like the podcast is kind of like my version of a blog and that kind of thing, right? Like it all kind of works together. But I think the symbiosis of that, talk about that a little bit in the sense of like what parts of your passion does each one serve?
Yeah. So when I got started, of course, it was the blog. So I guess I got started with an Etsy shop. So I was sewing pillows, and then inevitably I turned that into a business, which is so funny. I was like, okay, I'm so sick of sewing pillows and selling these on Etsy. Like why don't I teach people how to do this? I've heard people have blogs. I think I can make money doing that. I don't know. So I start the blog because I didn't want to sew pillows anymore. I wanted to be able to cook and share. Like it was very like crafty DIY.
Okay.
And so that was sort of born. And then I got my first brand partnership, and I think I got paid like $500 to promote like a wine brand or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I can make money doing this. And then I thought, all right, like if I can make money doing this, like, and we have the Etsy shop and I'm doing this, like I started to kind of see that stacking that or diversifying the income was the key to actually making money, doing things. And that said, it's not for everybody, right? Like some people would want to just solely focus on design, and that's what they do. But for me, I have so many different passions, like you said. And it was Lori, who I've talked about a couple of times as we've chatted here. Lori looked at me and she was like, I want to quit my job. I want to work for Boxwood, because she had her own business. And I really think we can do something here. Like, I believe in you. And I was like, oh, I think I was making like $30,000 at the time. And I was like, total, like not bringing home $30,000. I was just like, that was as much as the business was bringing in through
Okay.
pillow sales and egg stamps. And so I was like, okay, if you can figure out how to pay yourself, sure, like come help me. And slowly over time, we started to build that up. And so, long story short, the blog just remained, right? And the blog I started to see is, rather than DIY projects, I was like, if I can start talking about design projects and somebody lands on that from Google, then that could feed into design. But maybe they don't want our full service, or they're not at a place to have full service, but we can offer one-on-one video consults, and or we could offer virtual design. We don't offer virtual design any longer, but we did for a long time as I was building the business up, because it was a way to diversify the income and to be able to maintain employees at 20, 30, 40 hours a week. If we didn't have those billable hours, we could get some virtual design projects that would support them. So we maintained the blog, and then I love to travel. And so I was traveling, sourcing things for the shop, actually antiques for the shop and for clients. And I was posting about it on Instagram, and then people were reaching out and they were like, oh, I want to come with you, like take us with you. And I was like, okay, I'll take you with me. Let's turn it into retreats. And I had gone on a retreat like that, and it honestly changed my life. Like, it was a life-changing experience. I'd carry it with me forever. And so I was like, if I can provide that for other women to come and experience this and change their lives in the way it changed my life, that would be so rewarding and fulfilling. And so we started to do that. So it was like all of these things that really I was already doing, or they filled the gaps in certain ways. That really helped. Now, that said, I am much more creative and like big picture, and Lori is the one who's like, okay, this is what we need to charge for ticket sales. This is what we need to be charging our hourly rate. Like, we have to be at 70% billable, like blah, blah, blah. I don't know any, I've learned through Lori, but I wouldn't have naturally been able to like understand that or set that up.
Yeah. And I just, from hearing you just like speak on it, I feel like you have such an entrepreneurial spirit. Like, you are
Oh
like,
yeah,
everything you turn to, you're like, how can this be a business? So I
totally.
definitely relate to that, because I feel like as soon as something is, my joy is like in building something. And as soon as
Mhm.
it's like pretty successful, I'm like, great, that's wonderful. Let's keep it
Next.
like chugging along. But like, what's my next great idea? Right.
Totally.
So I definitely understand how you feel there. What is the next retreat that's coming up?
So our next retreat is in the Cotswolds. Well, actually, our next retreat is Provence, but that one is in like less than a month, which I'm very excited about. So we go to Provence every fall. And then the next retreat that we do is in the spring, and that is in collaboration with my girlfriend, Jamie from Jay-Z Interiors. So she and I tag team that one, and that one is definitely more design centric. So it's at this amazing hotel called Time, which is designed beautifully. So anywhere we go, it's actually like, we start with a beautifully designed hotel or chateau or wherever we are, and then we sort of build off of that, because I feel like it's so fun as designers to experience in a tactful way, like how curtains are made, and like just different. It opened up my eyes to new ways of doing things, and I really think that then that helped me become a better designer. And so that's what we start with, like amazing hotels or lodging, and then we build off of that. So we do cooking classes, or we go meet with artisans, or we take a ceramics class, and of course antiquing, and meeting with various like fabric vendors or textile designers or artisans. And yeah, so it's really fun. We go all throughout Europe. Next one is, like I said, is Provence. Then we do the Cotswolds next spring. We do Provence every fall. And then next fall, 2025, I'd like to integrate Portugal in, because that'll be a new one for some tiles and ceramics, and kind of a change of scene from the usual Boxwood abroad.
Yeah, the tiles in Portugal are crazy.
Aren't they
Like,
beautiful? Yeah.
all of their pottery and ceramics are amazing, and they have a lot of really interesting like leather and cork textiles too.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, last time I was there, there was like one store that sold all cork bags, which I was just like, huh. But
Interesting.
yeah, I was like, not for me, but I like,
Like,
I
cool.
like, yeah, it's a fun idea.
Mhm.
Um, how do people find out about that? I've been like sneakily like on your website as we're chatting, and I don't see it like right in my face. So how do
I should put
we,
like a pop up right away.
yeah.
So that is, it's just travel.boxwoodavenue.com.
Okay.
So all the info is there. And yeah, then the blog, of course, boxwoodavenue.com. Sometimes I write about entrepreneurship and design help, design, business, the business side of things and blogging. I'm really passionate about sharing like SEO and blogging for people because I don't think that everybody understands the impact that can have. And then if anybody wants to check out the mercantile just to get ideas, e-commerce, it's shop.boxwoodavenue.com. And we're on Shopify. That was a whole other like getting e-commerce set up, that was an interesting experience too. But yeah, we use Shopify for that.
Awesome. About the blog, what would you say the blog is a profitable business model, or is it something that just brings people into your site?
So it's very interesting because during COVID, the blog was a bread and butter. I mean, we were making so much money. It's like, it's just business comes in waves, I think is a huge lesson I learned. Like there are times when you're at the peak of the wave, and then there are times when you're at the bottom of the wave. Maybe not for everybody, but for me. And so I like capitalize when I can and then just know that it will come back up when it's down. So the blog during the pandemic was making so much money. It was great. And that's how we funded the shop. So through influencer work, I include that influencer work within the blog kind of that's under that LLC. And so through influencer work and then blogging, because we have ads on the blog, that made a lot of money. Now it's crickets. We have had very little brand partnerships and influencer work this year. And I'm grateful that I didn't rely on that money. And one thing you had asked about maybe mistakes made, I spent a lot of money on the shop building it out. And in hindsight, it's not like I wish I would have done anything differently, but a smarter way to have spent that money would have been to buy something because all of that money is now gone to the shop. But then the shop, having the brick and mortar, did help us get a couple of really incredible clients. And so that paid off in one way or the other. So yeah, all that to say, the blog can be very profitable. It is also a great way to get eyeballs on the brand. And then through that, it's really like the influencer work that kind of brings in the money there.
Okay. Interesting. I never know how blogs work because I love writing. I don't know. I just don't have time to do a blog, or I guess the podcast kind of takes the place of a blog, but I'm always interested to see if it's like ads or influencer.
It's ads. A lot of people make a lot of money off of their ads. If you're really going to just focus on the blog, where my friends that are just like full-time bloggers, it's ad money or ad revenue and then affiliate revenue through the blog posts, like linking the brass faucet that you're recommending or whatnot.
Yeah. Interesting. What was I going to ask? I had one more question that I wanted to chat with you about before we close out. Maybe less a question, more a comment, but I think what you said, like maybe you shouldn't have set it up one way or the other. Would you say as a business owner, I think I wouldn't necessarily look at it as something that shouldn't have it done, because just like you said, like everything led to something else and teaches you something else or opens another door or shows you another path. So I feel like I don't know if I'm maybe just commenting on your situation, but I feel like that all is like how it was meant to play out,
100%. Yeah. And I think, going back to the woo-woo stuff, I truly believe everything happens the way that it's supposed to happen, and then the best outcomes tend to happen when we're listening to our intuition and our gut and really operating in alignment with that kind of inner voice. And I think that like the shop, my inner voice really, really wanted the shop. And I listened to that. And even though financially, maybe it wasn't as successful as I would have liked it to be, it still did provide opportunity and it was a great experience. And I don't regret it for 1 second. And I think that looking back, had I not done it, I think I would still be like, gosh, someday I want to have a shop. And there would be regret in not having done that.
Yes, absolutely. I think you regret the things you never try more than you regret the things you tried that maybe didn't work out or weren't the right fit for you. We did a project last year where we created a online store for like digital download design. So like pre-curated spaces. Yeah. And I think I spent 25 grand, like making the website, putting all, like having my girls put all the designs together and putting all the links together. And we've sold a few, but it's definitely not like the profit maker I was hoping it would be.
Right.
But I still feel like something in me created it for a reason, and like it will evolve into what it is supposed to be at some point. So I don't know. I feel like that is the way with entrepreneurship too. And some things, you throw the spaghetti at the wall, see what happens.
Totally. Well, like I forget, Alex Hormozi talks about this, and like it was, I forget the number of business that he tried that actually stuck, but there were like 500 failures before that. And Lori and I remind ourselves of that all the time because, man, as an entrepreneur, you're in the trenches a lot.
Yeah.
And so just that there's light at the end of the tunnel if you keep going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's seasons, right? There's things that bring us joy in certain times, and sometimes are for like hustling and working hard, and other times are for like creating and being slow. And it's a whole living thing being an entrepreneur.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So tell us, so we've talked about travel.boxwoodavenue.com shop. Anywhere else people can follow you, see what you're all about, engage with your content?
Yeah, so Instagram is where we kind of where I got started. So we're still on Instagram, and we do offer a little bit of business coaching selectively, just a couple people. And so if anybody's interested in listening that would like some business coaching, we do offer that, like strategy sessions are like 90 minutes long, and we kind of deep dive into people's businesses. So that's really fun. Yeah, and then I offer like free masterminds occasionally throughout the year or master classes. So to kind of follow along and subscribe. We just did one, and it was all about like getting to that first $1 million mark, and that was really fun. We had like 400 people come to it, and it was like
That's
amazing.
awesome.
That was really cool. So yeah, to follow along on Boxwood Instagram, that's really where like the most up-to-date information can be found.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time and for all of your insights. And is there any last advice you want to leave anyone with?
I would say just keep going. I remember when I got started, I had like this very clear vision. And I remember reaching out to somebody and being like, do you think I'm going to make it? Like, do you think that it's like this is going to happen? And she was like, Chloe, you got to keep going. Like, you've got the eye, you've got this, just keep going. And that has stuck with me. So I just want to encourage anybody listening to just keep going. It's going to be okay. You're going to get there.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you for being here. It was great. And we will catch you again soon.
Thank you.